Is Apple going to finally ban Facebook and kick them off the iPhone 13, the iPhone 14, and all other Apple devices? Or is Tim Cook not the good-hearted guy he claims to be, and is Apple flexing more of their power and control than they should be? This heated debate between Apple and Facebook is getting more complicated by the day, because it's not just Apple versus Facebook, but Apple versus Facebook, Google, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Instagram, and the list keeps growing and growing. What is the future of these apps on Apple devices? Is Apple gonna give them the boot, let them stay? Everything is about to change. Things are gonna get a little crazy here, and here's everything that you need to know. And a big thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. In case you didn't know, Apple and Facebook sort of hate each other. Tim Cook sees Apple as a company championing users' privacy, safety, and security, while they see Facebook as a company working against the best interests of its own users.
We could make a ton of money if we monetized our customer, if our customer was our product. We've elected not to do that.
Mark Zuckerberg, on the other hand, warns Apple users of developing Stockholm Syndrome against their evil captor, the giant, all-controlling tech behemoth that is Apple.
I don't think at all that means that we don't care about people. I think to the contrary, I think it's important that we don't all get Stockholm Syndrome and let the companies that work hard to charge you more convince you that they actually care more about you.
Now, technically, Mark Zuckerberg is now leading a company called Meta and not Facebook, since Facebook just changed its name to Meta for a couple of odd reasons, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna stick with calling it Facebook for the rest of this video. But who's the good guy and who's the bad guy here? Who really has our best interests at heart, and where did this feud really all start? Well, at the center of this entire debate is me and you, and specifically our personal interests, our tastes, our hobbies, our likes, our dislikes, our friends, our photos, our videos. Our personal information is very, very valuable, not only to us, but to other tech companies possibly looking to make a quick buck off of our hobbies and interests. Tech companies want to know as much about us as possible for a couple of important reasons. First, they want to use that personal information almost against us, to serve us those creepy good ads that seem to know exactly what we're talking about or thinking about without ever seemingly ever putting that information into a search engine or anywhere on our devices. Those ads can be creepy good for a reason. They're collecting a whole lot of data about you. The second reason is that they want to make their algorithms and their platforms even more engaging and even more addictive. TikTok is sort of a perfect example of this. They collect a bunch of little information bits on how you use their service and what you interact with and what you comment on to seemingly keep feeding you this endless stream of videos to keep you sort of more engaged in the TikTok platform and to keep you on the app longer. If you want to sort of know more about how TikTok works for you and against you, check out the video we have linked up here and down below. But suffice it to say, these tech companies want to collect as much of your personal info as they can for many big reasons, mainly to make themselves a whole lot of money. Now, inherently, there's nothing wrong with these apps or social media services. They can be a really great, powerful tool for sort of expressing your opinions, connecting with friends and family members around the world, meeting new people. Social media in itself is not a bad thing, but what more people have sort of an issue with is the data collection practices from these companies, specifically Facebook, because Facebook has done sort of sleazy things over and over and over again. It's sort of like they never learn their lesson and they're just trying to collect as much information as possible basically all the time in any way that they can. And that's where sort of Apple enters the chat here with their own agenda, and they're really focused, in recent years especially, on the safety and security and privacy of all the devices in the Apple ecosystem. They want to make sure that your photos, your videos, everything you do on your Apple device stays safely and securely on that device and stays yours, that no one is snooping and spying on what you're doing, and they want to keep you safe, secured, protected when you're in the Apple ecosystem. And because of this, you have other companies who are not a fan of these sort of anti-tracking behaviors and the other tools and other services that Apple has implemented over the years, which is where Facebook has sort of become public enemy number one. Because they are trying to collect as much information as possible and because they have really become a behemoth, they're sort of at odds with Apple. Apple on one hand is trying to make all the tracking done very transparent and making users aware of what's going on, and Facebook is not happy about that because they want to continue to collect as much information as possible, so the two companies have very publicly started just to butt heads. All of this sort of came to a very public boiling point about 6 months ago when Apple finally rolled out the long-awaited and sort of long-dreaded, depending on which side of the aisle you're on here, for app tracking transparency, something that users really loved, but advertising companies and Facebook in particular really hated because it was giving more transparency, as the name suggests, to its users. Basically, when you open an app on your iPhone, your iPad, or even other Apple devices, you're presented with a simple choice. Would you like to allow this app to track you across different apps and websites, or ask the app not to track you? And basically, asking the app not to track would sort of lock the app down and not allow it to communicate and sort of spread its tentacles across different apps and websites. And that's what many people didn't understand, was that Facebook and other companies were using all these different bits of tracking technologies across different apps and websites to track a user from many different places, between apps and websites, between sort of different things they did on their devices. They could build this very detailed and very lucrative profile about you without you really ever knowing what was going on, and that's what app tracking transparency was trying to sort of shine a light on and let you sort of be more aware of and more in control of. Before we continue with more of this Apple Facebook privacy drama, let me take a quick break and tell you a little bit about this video's sponsor, NordVPN. Now, there has never been a better time or a more important time to keep your online activity safe and secure. You don't want anybody snooping or spying on the websites you visit. You don't want your traffic sort of used against you. You don't want prying eyes looking at what website you're visiting. You want to be safe, secure, and protected online, and that's where NordVPN is here to help. NordVPN makes it incredibly simple to make your connection online safe and secure with just a few clicks on your computer or just a few taps on your phone or tablet. They've got apps on all major platforms like Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android, and you can connect and secure 6 devices under one NordVPN account. With over 5,100 servers in 60 countries, NordVPN is also super speedy as well. Great for streaming content, playing games, and also a great way to get access to region lock content you wouldn't otherwise have access to, because with NordVPN, you can change your virtual location in just a couple of simple clicks. It's also important to know that NordVPN uses diskless servers that store no data or configurations on site. And if the VPN connection accidentally drops out, there's an automatic kill switch in place. So now is the time to get your devices safe and secure and your online activity protected with NordVPN. If you guys want to check it out for yourself today and learn more, which I recommend you do, hit the link down below to learn more, or head to nordvpn.com/theAppleCircle. And special promo deal going on right now. NordVPN is offering an awesome Cyber Month deal. You can get a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month with a huge discount. If you guys want to check it out for yourself today, learn more and sign up, hit the link right down below to learn more, or head to nordvpn.com/theAppleCircle. And obviously this little move from Apple has prompted some big controversial opinions and different headlines across different websites, and analysts and pundits are all sort of weighing in on what the effects of this would be. Would this be a good move to protect consumers and make things more transparent? Or was this going to be sort of a fatal blow to advertisers and other tech companies? Or was it not going to have a big effect? No one really knew where sort of the chips are going to fall on this until now. We're starting to see some more tangible effects of Apple's app tracking transparency sort of put to work. And now we're starting to see how Facebook and other companies are sort of starting to feel the pain by not being able to track users as they were doing previously. Now, one of the most public and recent examples of a company sort of starting to feel the pressure of these changes was Snapchat. Now, many might be quick to disregard Snapchat as being less popular these days and sort of irrelevant, but that is not the case. They still have millions and millions of dedicated users around the world, and they, in particular, blame Apple for some target revenue misses in their latest quarterly earnings. When Snapchat missed their ad revenue target by 3 million this past quarter, they specifically called out iOS and stated the changes to the way that ads are targeted, optimized, and measured created a, quote, more significant impact on our business than we expected, end quote. That miss drove Snap stock down 27%. And of course, Facebook has not been immune to these changes. They've been very vocal about app tracking transparency being a bad thing, but as more users sort of opted in, they started to get less and less information. This was also seen in their latest quarterly earnings. Facebook CFO specifically called the iOS changes the biggest headwind the company had to face this quarter. And of course, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, who has been very vocal about this, specifically called out these changes in iOS as being a big problem for Facebook and one that they are not happy about at all. And of course, because of these effects by app tracking transparency, you have companies like Facebook, Snapchat, and many, many others who are sort of starting to look for alternatives and are sort of trying to change the ways they collect this information to get more information out than they have been recently, because it's starting to really affect their business. And even Google, who publicly touted their own version of tracking transparency coming to Android, has been accused of colluding with Facebook to work behind the scenes against Apple's privacy features in Safari so the two companies could continue to track users. Even Google is sort of starting to feel the pressure. Okay, so what's Apple gonna do here? What's their long-term game plan, and what's gonna change with the iPhone 14 and iOS 16 and the next version of macOS and iPadOS? What's Apple's game plan here? Well, on one hand, I think what we're going to see is Apple continue to do what they have been doing, and that is making small but important and fundamental changes to different technologies, and specifically tracking technologies and transparency technologies within their different software services like macOS and iOS and stuff like that. We have new app tracking transparency prompts, we have new insight into apps and what data they're collecting and what servers they're phoning home to. We have private relay through iCloud, for example, that's trying to mask your physical location, or I guess your geolocation around the world. Apple is continuing to implement different software services to make it harder and harder for apps to track you. And I think that what we're going to continue to see is Apple sort of double down their efforts and put more and more of these technologies in place across the iPhone and the iPad and the Mac. And they're just going to try to make it harder and harder for companies like Facebook and Google to track you across different apps and services. On the other hand, there have also been some rumors that Apple could sort of turn things up a notch and make their own privacy-focused search engine to sort of take on Google, either if they make it in-house or they acquire another company like DuckDuckGo and they make their own Apple search engine focused on data privacy, safety, security, no collection, no logs. It's all focused on keeping your personal information safe. Some have even also speculated that Apple could get back into the social media game after the whole sort of ping debacle and make their own Facebook competitor or some other social media company that was again focused on safety, security, transparency, and was more of a good as opposed to the evil that is Facebook, and that did not collect all of this information. There has been no concrete evidence to suggest that Apple is going to do this anytime soon, if ever, but there have been some hopes and some prayers and a lot of wanting that Apple would sort of enter these new technology arenas and sort of create their own search engine or social media company to sort of show Facebook and Google how it's really done. Where this is going to land, I don't know, but I'm sure we're going to continue to see them battle it out. And you're sort of left to decide who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. Is Facebook really a sleazy company that's trying to collect more information than they should for their own benefit? Is Apple doing a good thing here? Or is Apple maybe overstepping their bounds and exerting too much control over iOS and macOS users than they should be, and they should be giving more freedom to users to use the services and apps they want to, and they should sort of back off. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think Apple is the good guy here, the bad guy? Is Facebook doing the right thing or the wrong thing? I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Would you use an Apple social media site? Would you use an Apple search engine even if you had to pay for it? Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on this and who's the good guy and who's the bad guy here. I'm curious. We can talk all about Facebook and Apple down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm Robert Rosenfeld from the Apple Circle, and I will see you all in the next one.